This is Polyamory Weekly, tales from the front of responsible non-monogamy from a pansexual, kink-friendly point of view. A warning for our under-18 listeners. This is an adult-oriented podcast about really lascivious things, like communication and honesty in relationships. If you're under 18 and looking for upfront advice and answers to questions about sex, please visit scarletteen.com.
This is Polyamory Weekly, episode 549 for February 25th, 2018. Coming up on today's show, getting what you want out of swinging. That's coming up on today's show. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Minx, and very happy to be back behind the microphone today and chatting with you and some super special guests today. But first, we have yet another university doing a study. This is the University of Western Ontario is doing a study on polyamory. They're looking for participants who are over the age of 18, identify as polyamorous or practice polyamory, who live in Canada or the US, sorry, rest of the world, currently have at least one partner, and either have at least one additional partner or are looking for an additional partner. All genders and sexual orientations are welcome. The study is open to all forms of polyamory, and they encourage partners to participate as well. If you're eligible to participate, they are going to ask that you complete a monthly online survey, 30 to 45 minutes for a year, so 12 surveys in total. And due to the length of the survey, they will ask you to report on your relationship with up to 2 partners only. So if you have more than that, it will take you too long, basically. So they just 2 partners. If this describes you and you want to help, please email polylovestudy@gmail.com for more information. And that's the only announcement this week, so let's get straight into my chat with Ryan and Kieland, answering a listener question about getting what she wants out of swinging. Well, we brought in some specialists to deal with our listener question today because it was a little bit tricky for me, and you will hear why in just a little bit. So I would like to introduce, brand new to the podcast, Ryan and Kieland McClellan. Did I say that right?
That is perfect.
Oh, awesome, Kieland. Thank you. Diana, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to our awesome listeners? And then, Kieland, you can go next.
Absolutely. My name is Diana, and I've been a part of the lifestyle since the 90s. Hanging out in the military and then retired. Now I'm a professional counselor. Kieland and I have been together for almost 8 years now, and we met in the lifestyle. So we are very familiar with this topic today.
Now, just to clarify, when you say the lifestyle, you're referring to swinging, correct?
I am.
Awesome. And Kieland?
Pretty much the same. I've been in the lifestyle or swinging since around 2004, 2005. I met Diana in the lifestyle of swinging, and we tend to refer to it as lifestyle, the lifestyle, although there are several different. So let's try not to confuse. I try not to confuse that. I started a group. I host meet and greets, things like that. But in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that's kind of what we've been doing and what I've been doing for a while.
Fantastic. I'm so excited to have you with me today to address this issue because while I do participate, or I have participated in the BDSM lifestyle, and one could argue the poly lifestyle, although it's not generally referred to that way, the swinger lifestyle is something I've only dipped a tiny toe into and then quickly determined not for me. So I'm so glad you guys can help with this. So I'm going to start out by reading a few bits from our listener question and see if Diana and Kieland, you can help answer it. So this is from Mrs. Swinger, who wrote in and said, she and her husband attend swingers parties, meets and greets, and such, but are usually the odd couple out based on race. Either we're treated like anomalies because there are not many Black people at the events we attend, and many people want the BBC experience, or we are met with an underlying feeling of disgust like, why are you here? We've attended parties and takeovers where the host had no problem taking our money to attend the event, but upon our arrival, they didn't even speak or acknowledge us. she continues saying, the problem is we can't seem to find people close to home to play with. We're members of 2 very popular sites for alternative lifestyles, Swing Lifestyle and Couples Next Door, which mostly has members from Minnesota and not many Wisconsinites, which is where we reside. I spent a lot of time in Wisconsin. Anyway, they continue. So it limits our play. My husband has no problem attracting the ladies, but of course many of the vanilla women he comes across aren't bi. They'll gladly fuck him if he would allow it, but want nothing to do with me. And on the occasions that these women thought they wanted to try it out, hasn't ever ended well. Yeah, that's not uncommon. I think some women have tried it just to fuck him only, and then hope they can continue to fuck him after and just leave me out. He's even asked me to find the women to make me feel more included in the process, but how does one go about finding women in everyday interactions without seeming creepy or without offending these women? So she concludes, I would like for him to get what he needs to feel satisfied while also protecting and respecting our relationship. How can I or we go about this? Your help would be appreciated. So I'm throwing it out to you folks. Diana, what would you recommend?
Well, first off, her experience is not unusual. Kieland and I have also been one of 2 or 3 Black couples in a mostly Caucasian event. Sometimes you get that. You have to find those people who you vibe with, regardless of race, and then spend time with them, because you don't vibe with everyone everywhere you go anyway. And as far as dating and finding him, meeting his needs, Kieland and we are fans of not taking one for the team.
Mm-hmm. So
we've determined that I have different tastes. I'm also bi, so I have different tastes in females. He likes something else. Whatever he likes, he goes for. Whatever I like, I go for.
Now, let me back up to the first part of your answer, which was just find somebody that you vibe with within the spaces you have and ignore the rest. It sounds like, though, there's a real issue that they don't feel welcome in the spaces. It's not just that they can't find people to play with, but that the spaces don't feel welcoming enough that they can get comfortable enough to find someone they vibe with. Is there any way they could deal with that, or anything they could do to address that?
I'll go first. I'll give you a minute, Keelan. First, I would say is kind of tell the host or hostess that maybe to introduce you around, maybe to meet in not play places, but maybe outside of play places if they do that. Then you can get a feel for everyone who's in there, and a lot of people are standoffish if they really don't know you. Keelan?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say. A lot of people are really standoffish, and because they don't know you, you're new. They don't know what you're about, or even if you have great energy. So a lot of times it comes to where, like she said, you have to say hello. When they have chat boards, say Facebook or something, make sure you introduce yourself in those groups, in those boards. And I always make it a point to say, hey, if you see us, make sure to say hello. And we tend to stand out. It's 3 or 4 of us, so you can't miss us. And once I started doing that, people started walking by just to say hello. Hey, how you doing? And it started to kind of go from there.
That's interesting. That's actually some of the advice that I have given in the past to people who are basically introverts that are attending their first kink event. Things like that, like do the online thing first and ask people to say hello to you at the event. Also, one of the things it occurs to me that we've recommended in the past is to volunteer, because it can help put yourself and others at ease by, being the one that's handing out the towels or whatever. Now, that may not work because one of the things that I didn't read from her letter is saying that a lot of these events are held 2 to 3 hours away and it requires an overnight stay. And it's just a huge investment of time and energy. So I'm not sure if that would help them or not. Is there anything else that you can recommend that might help them to just sort of break the ice at some of these events that they do have access to?
I will tell you, we went to a BBB and we didn't know anyone.
Okay, back up. What's a BBB?
Boats, boobs, and beer.
Boats, boobs, and beer. Okay.
No, it's boats, boobs, and
Boats,
butts.
boobs, and butts. Hey.
It's boats.
It sounds like we
boobs,
might
and
need
butts.
4Bs, boats, boobs, butts, and beer, because you really,
There is a lot
you
of
don't
beer
want to
involved.
leave any
Don't
of
get me
those
wrong.
off.
It was fun though. And Keelan and I, honestly, we had gotten connected with a friend of a friend who had a boat. And if you've never heard of the event, it's an amazing event. We went down to Austin. Everyone kind of ropes their boats together in one space, and it's like a huge party.
I love it. That sounds awesome.
So we were on a boat for someone we didn't know, and really didn't know very many. I don't think we knew anyone except
Maybe we went with one of those groups. So we were on the fringes of one of those groups, kind of like your listener. We knew a few people, but we really didn't know them. A lot of them were a little standoffish as far as when we go to their local meet and greets and things like that. So we just went because we wanted to check out the event. And when we got there, we started to meet a few more people, but I think we only kind of knew one that invited us, and we just took them up on the invite. Like, okay, we'll go.
But as we went, both of us are pretty fun. We spoke. You know, if you didn't seem like you wanted to speak to us, that's okay. There are other people that do. We moved around, and we basically just had a good time. We didn't take it personally if they were uncomfortable with us. We understand that we were the new element in the room, so to speak. So we just had a good time. And of course, drinks help.
Drinks always help.
What about the difficulty she's having online? Because a lot of times I would send somebody online if they were having issues with live events for whatever reason of not feeling comfortable. Typically, again, I'm addressing introverts as opposed to the issue being people of color. But she's saying that even online, she has difficulty finding people that are meeting the specifications, or just finding women that are interested in him, but not them together as a couple in that sort of traditional swinging format. Any advice there?
As far as online, I would think first she'd have to address between the two of them, because it almost sounds like they play together. That's,
Yeah.
you know, they play together, and whoever they bring in has to be into both of them. And that's such a hard dynamic sometimes.
It is really difficult. Yeah.
So they may want to, I guess, reassess exactly what's allowed, and maybe allow a little bit extra as far as that. Maybe not always playing together, or maybe playing in just the same room to where you're not necessarily involved in each other's play, but you're together. There are a lot of ways that you can do that. You're not always going to find someone who's digging you and digging him. So
Yeah.
that's a hard one.
Yeah, that's really tough. I know in the poly world, we can call these people unicorn hunters, somebody who wants to find one hot bi babe who loves and is equally sexually and romantically attracted to both you and your partner in exact equal portions. And there's a bit of disdain for that, but swinging is a little bit different because in general, you're not searching for long-term relationships and a possible move-in partner. You're really just looking for, somebody you vibe with for just that evening or for just the period of the event. So it can be a little bit easier to find, but it sounds like it's not for her.
I would think also she's in Wisconsin. I don't know the demographics there, but I hadn't heard that we were in large supply.
I lived in Chicago, and I had two poly boyfriends in Wisconsin for about 5 years, and my God, I think I saw like one person of color the entire time I was there.
I would think maybe, and this is just a thought, maybe if she ventured out to a little bit more of the kink side of it, she may find more people who are open to sex, I guess, in the swing. At least Keelan and I do. The people who we deal with will also go to kink events, will also go to poly events. So that openness is what she's looking for. Maybe if she ventured outside of the swinging just a little and hit some other areas, as in poly and as in kink, maybe she would find more open-minded people.
In my opinion, you look for the open-mindedness of those people. And it's not necessarily, the type of play that they may be into, because I have a lot of voyeur in me. I actually like to watch. I like to go and see the scene. Even if I'm not into it, I like to enjoy the scene, the energy of that scene. And it could be just those people who have a more open thought process. So, hitting those scenes, they may be deep into BDSM, but they also do some swinging. So you look at the variety and the thought process that they may have. And that tends to help a lot of people or help us.
You know, that's a great point. There are a lot of kink events where sex is allowed, and it may turn out that if she tries a kink event and, you know, watches a bunch of other people, you know, having their kinky fun, even if she doesn't want to participate, she and her husband might be able to have a little fun getting off together. I mean, it doesn't involve, you know, specifically having sex with other people, but it could be another interesting kind of play.
Yeah, you get to meet somebody new. And that's the biggest thing. And so outside of that event, if you meet someone new and you get the opportunity to say hello to them and ask them about them, as you know, people tend to enjoy talking about themselves.
Yeah.
And what they like and what they do. And if you establish that relationship, you don't know where that would lead. You know, you may not delve into their world deeply, but you'll meet somebody that's more on your side of it, that's friends with them, and you guys happen to be at a local barbecue just hanging out, and you'll start to meet people just like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the networking principle, I suppose, is if you go about and meet other people in alternative communities, even if those aren't your communities, they're going to know people who know people who know people, and eventually you'll find your tribe.
Exactly.
I got it. So, Diana and Kieland, I want to ask you about this question she asked that made me cringe a little bit. It's the one where she said that her husband has asked her to go find the women, to go out in the world and hit on women to bring home to them. And oh my gosh, I just cringed. I'm like, no, don't do it. Please don't do it. It's like super creepy. It's twice as creepy as when guys do it.
Exactly.
And you know, the advice I give, at least on the poly side, is look, don't go into the world at large and expect to find your poly mate. You need to fish where the fish are. You need to shop for your poly partners in the poly world. I know it's a small world, but converting monogamous is just like far more trouble than it's worth. Do you think the same is true in the swing community?
Yes. Well, you know what? I will say, for me, yes. For you, people tend to be attracted to you. Men and women seem to be attracted to you a whole lot faster than me. But yeah, to a degree, yeah, I think that's true. I've never said, "Hey, Diana." Oh, okay, I'm telling a story. I have said, "Hey, Diana, go find us someone." It never works out great in my favor. But on the other side of it,
you think so, Kieland?
yeah, exactly. Or
Diana's like, I'm fine.
You know, someone that's not necessarily my taste, but it's totally her taste. But on the other side of it, I tend to meet people left and right, meet ladies left and right. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm Kieland. And I'll tell them about me, and I tell them that, you know, I have a woman, I'm married, and I'm happy at home. And if she doesn't like you, I can't like you. So if you meet her, you got to make a good impression. That's pretty much it. And we tend to go from there. And I've met them in bars, restaurants, you know, grocery stores, things like that. So it kind of happens for me, but we don't really play with them together.
I was going to say, when you meet people, that's for you to play with, and they're aware of Diana, but they may or may not meet her, right? It's not so that you can bring the person back and the three of you can play together, right?
Well, you know what? It just depends on how Diana feels. Because it has happened, but when I bring them back, I always bring them to meet Diana. There hasn't been an instance where they haven't met Diana. So it's not like I just have my own relationship going here and then I come home. It's always you will meet my wife and hopefully y'all hit it off. And even if nothing else, some of them, they've just become good friends, you know, where I'll get a call, hey, we're going to get wine and we're going to lunch or dinner, you know, and they're going on their way. So we've had that situation, and we've had times where we've all ended up together playing around and enjoying each other. And it's because I guess at a certain point they developed more of a, you know, Diana and whoever developed more of a friendship or a relationship where they were attracted to each other. And it didn't necessarily involve me. I was just the middleman, I guess, you know. So
I really like that you bring up the point that let's not discard people just because they don't immediately end up being a sex partner. That, you know, friendship is really valuable. Having people you can go have drinks with that you're comfortable around and just be sexy around, even if you're not specifically having sex because you don't hit it off for whatever reason. don't discard and discount that person, which I think can be very off-putting. And the thing is, those people you discard, I don't know how it is in the swing community, but in the poly community, those people that are immediately discarded, they talk to everybody else in the community. So if you treat them like shit, or if they feel like they've been treated like shit, they're going to tell everyone, and then you're not going to be able to date.
It's the same way.
Okay, good. Diana, did you have a different take?
For me, I find attracting people really, really easy.
Well, of course, you're all hot and smart.
Exactly, right?
So, and I have a tendency to attract them anywhere. And I'm very transparent in my life choices. So I don't necessarily hide how I meet people. If I meet you, prior to meeting Kieland, I was a unicorn in the swinger lifestyle. I was a single woman who dated couples and enjoyed it. And I didn't always like the couple in the same degree, but I liked both of them somewhat. I met the couple that I was dating when I met Kieland. I met them at a regular club, listening to music in there by myself.
Like a dance club, not a swing club.
Exactly. It was a club that had, it features bands. And I love live bands. So I was there enjoying the night, and the female of the couple came and spoke to me. We sat down and had a drink and had a conversation. And then I went back to the bar and met her partner. And the rest was a very, very interesting next several months.
That sounds like fun. That does remind me a little bit of some of the other dating advice that we give in general to people of all ilks, which is the best way to attract people, regardless of whether you're monogamous, poly, or anything else, is to go out and do stuff you love. Go be you and be your best you. Be your best and happiest you.
Right. And I know my friend group here, for a few years, they gave me the nickname Gateway.
I can only imagine why.
I seem to attract people who are open for something new. And they end up being friends.
I think that's fabulous. And, one of the issues that I'm hearing reading between the lines from Mrs. Swinger, and maybe tell me if you picked up on this too, or if it's my imagination, so I feel like you, Diane, are talking about you go out, you're your best self, and you're meeting people that are for you, that like you might want to date or be with. And yeah, of course, you're going to, bring them, you're going to tell them immediately about Kieland and your proclivities, and they can decide if they want to just be friends or run away screaming or date you and Kieland. And so, they have a lot of options there. It sounds to me like she is less interested in women for her, and really she's more looking to procure someone for her husband, and that's really the focus. And so she's not specifically looking for someone for her. She's just looking for somebody that doesn't omit her.
That's true. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I did get a vibe of that. I guess maybe I didn't get such a strong vibe that maybe she's, how would I place this? That he is requesting that she pimp for him.
I've been using the word procure because I've been slammed for using the word pimp in a casual context. But yes, basically go find someone for her partner.
Okay. Procure someone for her husband. But she does mention that she's bi. So I would assume that at some point she has enjoyed female company on her own.
I would assume, but if you notice in the letter, she never actually says that. She only describes bad experiences at clubs and bad experiences when he brings home women that either don't want her around or she's just not feeling very good about. So presumably those have happened, but she didn't give any instances when they did. So maybe they haven't happened, right? So maybe she doesn't know where her sweet spot is. Maybe he doesn't know what to look for somebody that will be really good for both him and her. Maybe she needs to give him a little more direction in that area. What do you think?
I did get that maybe she is the less forceful person in the relationship. I got that from the letter that she wrote. And if that's the case, and she's just doing it because he would like it, I don't think it's ever going to be a great meeting of the minds.
And we've seen that time and time again.
Right.
You're absolutely correct. Normally, that doesn't turn out well. they either end up splitting up soon, or it's normally they usually end up splitting up, or you don't see them for years, and that doesn't turn out well. It never does.
We've got a couple of things for Mrs. Swinger to play with. I hope they were helpful. Any other advice you would give to Mrs. Swinger?
Again, I would say sit down and talk to her partner and be very clear on what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with, what he's requesting, what he's willing to settle for. Where are your compromise spots? This is a relationship, and a relationship is not all about one partner or the other. A relationship is built on communication and compromise.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Diana and Kieland, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much for addressing this question. I feel like we got to turn it around a couple different ways, and you brought forth some facets that I hadn't really seen before. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, you're welcome.
Diana and Kieland, can you tell me really quickly where we can find you online? Let's start with Diana.
Well, you can find me online at www.360lifeskills.com. That is my professional counseling site.
And I'll throw in there that you are not just a licensed professional counselor, but you're also a licensed chemical dependency counselor, and you're also an accredited coach, life coach as well, right?
Absolutely. And I'm currently working on my intern hours for certified sex therapist.
Fantastic. And we'll put a link to your website. And as well, she also was kind enough to provide her Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram account. So we'll put those in the show notes at polyweekly.com or on your podcatcher app. Kieland, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook. My name is the same, Kieland McClellan. Also, you can find me, my email is the Lifestyle Entertainment, GRP, at gmail.com. And I have a lifestyle entertainment group that we host parties at like Colette's clubs. We have meet and greets and private parties. So you can always find me there. And currently working on a website. And also I'm on sdc.com, Cassidy.com, or quiver.us, which are all swinging sites.
Diana and Kieland, thank you so much for joining me today to help address this sticky listener question. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been a cool experience, and yes, it has been fun. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. It has been fun.
And thanks again to Diana and Kieland for taking the time to chat with us and to give their insights on this, kind of tricksy listener question. It's time for your Happy Poly Moment of the Week, brought to you by Fubbly Polyamorists everywhere. Our Happy Poly Moment this week is from Jay, who said, "Hi Minx and all the listeners. I wanted to respond to episode 544 and add that it's a Happy Poly Moment as well. So this episode made me so happy. You may recall that episode 544 was our episode on sisterhood with Iris Muscarella. She says, I was just listening to it and shaking my head happily. My Meta and I are good friends, and in fact, after listening, I consider us sisters. Even though she's not my partner, we have this connection and bond surrounding my partner T, who is her hubby. Several times we've all gone out to dinner or for drinks. We both love T so much, and because of that, we've become close. And like Iris said, we do have a weird relationship because of the blurred lines with our sexual attraction for each other. I'm so happy that this episode talked about how women within poly communities and relationships can embrace each other as sisters." Yay! Well, thank you very much, Jay, for writing in. And, I got a whole lot out of that interview and that episode as well. I've never been one of these women who felt the need to compete with other women, but I definitely am not, one of those, let me reach out and hug you and consider you a sister, because I've never had a sister. And poly is my substitute family, so it makes sense for me to embrace that. So I'm trying to do a little bit better job of that. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Thanks to everybody who wrote or called in or came on the show as a guest. And I want to give a shout out to our Polyweekly Playmates for their donations this week. We are a free resource. We've helped hundreds of thousands of people navigate their introduction to polyamory, and those donations do help keep the podcast free for everybody both inside and outside the community. If you'd like to become a monthly subscriber, just go to polyweekly.com, scroll down to the bottom, and then select at which level you'd like to contribute monthly. If you have questions, comments, or feedback, email polyweekly@gmail.com, call 802-505-POLY, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/polyamory, or Twitter @polyamory or @cunningminx. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and remember, it's not all about the sex.